one of the things I've learned is you want one call to action on any marketing thing. If you double the call to actions, your conversion drops by 50%. What I mean by that is you shouldn't be marketing a home buyer seminar as, hey, home buyer seminar, John Thomas, I'm a lender, but I can also refinance, your rates are low. Like boom, I'm done. No one's responding. So if I'm marketing a home buyer seminar, pick your exact audience, and that's who you're marketing to with one call to action. So if I'm marketing a home buyer seminar, I can even drill down on first-time home buyers. And the only call to action that you can possibly do is register for the seminar. That's it. And then once they register, I'm not trying to get a mortgage app. I'm not trying to, now, unless they want to engage that, all I'm trying to do is provide some value and get them to show up for the class. Because the way I do my class, if I get them to show up, I've got over a 90% rate where I can get them to do a soft pull.
Welcome to the Lowdown Mortgage Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who has really proven himself to be an expert on the one-to-many marketing strategy, basically writing the book on hosting workshops and educational seminars for agents and borrowers. Not only that, he's a proven top 20% producer and a national sales leader at his company. I'm excited to have him here today to talk about it all. John Thomas, welcome to the Lowdown.
Hey, thanks, Connor. Appreciate you having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely, brother. It's great to have you here. It's been fun getting to know you, and I'm just excited for us to kind of unpack everything today because you bring a ton of value to the industry, to your referral partners, to borrowers, and you're proving that every day with what you've developed with your seminars and the courses that you provide. But before we get into all of that, let's take one quick step back and let's just go from the beginning. Let's talk about how you got into mortgage. Most people, it wasn't something they planned on or anything like that. I don't know your story, but let's hear how you kind of got into the industry.
Okay, so again, not the normal story. Flashback, I was a teacher, teaching high school, and I had a cleaning and restoration business with a partner of mine, a national franchise. So, and then I also was a fighter. I kickboxed and boxed, and I had a gym. So I ended up getting hurt my back, had to have surgery. We were building the restoration business, and you still had to get on the truck and stuff, emergency service when it got busy. And I was like, look, I just can't do this with my back, and I didn't enjoy it. So I kind of sold that out to my partner, had to step back from the gym and training fighters and fighting myself. So then, I was teaching, summer hit, didn't usually super busy, had nothing to do. A buddy of mine from college said, hey, man, you're pretty smart with numbers. Why don't you come help me do the mortgage business? And I was like, okay. So that was like 05, jumped in. The refinances had kind of stopped because the rates had started going up. So when I got in, I was like, okay, well, I'll start teaching homebuyer seminars. Kind of like, I'm a teacher, let me do that. And then started teaching some classes to real estate agents from some material I had gotten from Loan Toolbox a long time ago, and kind of started doing my own classes and doing my own thing. And that was my biggest model, was I was niched with first-time home buyers doing the classes, and then I niched with the agents by providing them. And then I started building like kind of a wow service business, and kind of went from there. Did it wrong, had no teachers, had to learn everything on my own. Those guys were doing, the guy that got me in were doing the old school subprime stuff. You know what I mean? I didn't even do an FHA loan for my first maybe 2 years in the business. Then the market went to crap, and everyone that was doing subprime was like, wait, then FHA, VA, my community 100%, that we all switched to that. So I kind of went through that and then just kept building my business and consumer, one to many, just by happenstance that I was a teacher, that kind of worked for me. So I kind of kept doing consumer direct stuff and was doing the realtors classes and then added the database marketing and stuff like that. But that's kind of how I got in, and I somehow stuck around. Here I am.
Yeah. Well, that's really impressive. I love this concept of teaching the classes and being the host of things. I think there's a lot of advantages to loan officers that go that route. But I know it's not typically this overnight success. There's definitely a curve to it from the people I've talked to. Like, can you kind of walk us through what that evolution of things look like? What the first class was to kind of what it looks like today, and things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah. So, I mean, the consumer classes, I started with those and I did them, kind of live in person. one of the biggest things I learned was do not try and do loan apps at a seminar, because the clients will not wait in line and get frustrated and leave. I mean, how many people can you talk to and do a loan app for, right? So I learned to just get their information. So I came up with a form to pull their credit and a form to, schedule an appointment. And then if they wanted to hang out and talk and wait in line, they could, but if they just wanted to turn those in on the way out and leave, great. So that was took me a while to develop that. But the one thing I learned from, if you're going to do like homebuyer seminars, what you got to understand is, if you're lucky, you have someone that can close in 30 days to 90 days, if you're lucky. But the sales cycle is anywhere from 90 days to 36 months, 3 years. So a lot of people get frustrated and don't continue because I always say this all the time, my favorite line: loan officers and realtors are like Little Caesars. They want hot and ready leads, right? Well, only 15 to 25% of your leads are hot and ready. Everyone loses the other 75 to 85% because they don't have a nurture campaign. So if you're going to do homebuyer seminars, you better have a business model that is going to drip on these people for 36 months and stay in front of them, add value. Plus, you're also going to get a lot of people with challenges with their credit and stuff like that. So you need to have a plan for that, of how you're going to deal with that. And you can't spend a ton of time. So you got to have a plan for that, just because that's the nature of the beast. But does it work? Yeah, it works. And you just got to be consistent. And as I said, I've been doing homebuyer seminars every month since 2005.
Yeah. So you build out a 3-year campaign, to work the funnel. And like, how long did that take to develop? Because that had to be a lot of trial and error. A lot of
What's funny is it doesn't have to be super complicated. Once I got something where, once I learned task management, that was huge, because you just keep setting a task to call or email or text, and then it comes up, you do your task for the day, and then you can assign that task to somebody else. And then as technology evolves, then you can automate some of those emails and text messages that go out. And then you just have to make phone calls. I mean, you can even automate that with some ringless voicemail. But I was really big in that for a while, but I've seen the effectiveness of ringless voicemail drop way off. So I've almost stopped doing ringless voicemail. But that was a good technique to hit a lot of people. I still think it's good for an invite to a class, but in terms of a follow-up, I don't see doesn't work as well as it used to. So that's kind of where the task management was the way I first was able to do that, because you could just keep resetting a task to follow up with people 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And that's why you don't forget. So I think a CRM or something that has task management in it, and you, again, use it, that's huge. And then you can start adding automations to a lot of it and build out some campaigns to get more complicated. But you literally could just have a task that says, call this, lead. You call, you don't get them, you leave a message, send an email, and then move the task out for 3 months. Like, you could literally do that forever, right? And that's kind of how I started doing that. And then I got better as I got better software and learned how to use it to automate a lot of it and have a little bit better. But I mean, it's not what you do, it's how long you do it and how consistently. So, I mean, I've had people where I've sent stuff for 2 years, nothing. And they'll finally respond to a text or email, hey, I'm ready, buy a house now. Right now, how many people?
You were there constantly.
Right. And how many people will just keep sending something over and over for 2 years? Where it's like, I read something somewhere, like, if someone raises their hand to buy, and they may not buy now, but 85% of them are going to buy at some point. So if you don't just focus on hot and ready, you got to just stay in front of them to be that person that's there when they're ready, because they're not going to remember you. It's your job to stay in front of them. So that's huge. And so I think when you're looking at one to many, if I can digress, what I've learned is there's a couple different battles you have to learn to fight, or closes, if you want to talk sales talk. So the first close is just getting to register. The second close is getting them to show up. The third close is getting them to take some kind of action at that point, right? And then you follow up. So one of the things I've learned is you want one call to action on any marketing thing. If you double the call to actions, your conversion drops by 50%. More than two, it's almost negligible. What I mean by that is you shouldn't be marketing a homebuyer seminar as, hey, homebuyer seminar, John Thomas, I'm a lender, but I can also refinance, your rates are low. Like boom, I'm done. No one's responding. So if I'm marketing a homebuyer seminar, pick your exact audience, and that's who you're marketing to with one call to action. So if I'm marketing a homebuyer seminar, I can even drill down on first-time home buyers. And the only call to action that you can possibly do is register for the seminar. That's it. And then once they register, I'm not trying to get a mortgage app. I'm not trying to, now, unless they want to engage that, all I'm trying to do is provide some value and get them to show up for the class. Because the way I do my class, if I get them to show up, I've got over a 90% rate where I can get them to do a soft pull. And yeah, well, again, it's the value in the class that you're teaching. And I've evolved it over years and added different sales principles and different calls to action and creating compelling, I'm using fear of loss and then creating a compelling reason to move forward, taking away all your barrier to entries. That's why I do a soft pull. 2 reasons. A, credit's ungodly expensive. And B, it takes away the barrier of, hey, it's not a hard, it's just soft pull, right? So I'm just doing
You
a
just
1-0
listed off
soft.
a lot of like marketing terms and sales terms. Who do you study to know how to do all that? Because I know, I mean, self-taught, but clearly there's influence there. You don't just figure this stuff out.
It's funny because I always say, if you were to poll realtors and lenders, how many actually have ever taken an official sales class? Probably 1%, right? So, I've studied Anthony Robbins. I studied Chet Holmes because those, when I was getting in, there was no real good mortgage people. There was a guy, and I forget his name. He had a course. It was freaking, because I think it was CDs maybe. It was a sales one. Barry Habib, learned a lot of stuff from him back in the day where the brokers would always put on different sales stuff. So there was Barry Habib. There was, Loan Toolbox was a great resource for some stuff. But, Northern Logistic Program, studied a lot of that and in sales because a lot of those techniques are, and then I've read a lot of sales books, and you evolve with that. Like I think the Challenger Sale is a great book for me, but I can save you the read. Challenger Sale, you got to look for an opportunity to punch them in the mouth. That's my take on it.
Yeah, love that book. Great book.
Right. But that really, here's the lesson. Just find a way to punch them in the mouth so that you're the expert, and their Google knowledge is no good. So quick example, like you get a good conventional borrower. Hey, John, I want to put 20% down. I love that one because I'm going to punch you right in the mouth because I go, hey, Connor, why do you want to put 20% down? What's the standard answer? Why
That's
do you put
what I've heard. That's what
well,
I've
why?
heard.
Why do you put 20% down? So you don't do what?
Have PMI.
Oh, right. And then I go, right now, punch you in the mouth. Connor, who told you have to put 20% down not to pay PMI monthly?
I just researched that on Google.
Well, that's not true, right? Oh, now you're no longer the expert. Now I'm the expert. If you don't, that's why I say it kind of hits home when I say find a chance to punch them in the mouth because they think they're smarter than you. If you don't, now you're a commodity and they're telling you what to do and what loan to give them and all that. And you're just an order taker. And now you're competing on commodity as a price, which is typically rate. So you got to look. And the same thing is like, oh, well, I want the lowest rate. Oh, you do? I don't think you do. You got to punch them in the mouth. Go, okay, Connor, you want the lowest rate? I don't think you want the lowest rate, but here's how you get the lowest rate. Get a 10-year term and pay 3 discount points to buy the rate down as much as possible. Well, a discount point is 1% of the loan amount. So if it's $300,000 loan, that's an extra $9,000 on top of your required down payment, your closing costs, and your payment's going to be 4 times as much as it would on a 30-year. And you go, well, I can't afford that, and I don't have that money. Oh, so you didn't really want the lowest rate. What you wanted was the lowest payment, which does not mean the lowest rate, and you wanted your cash to close to fit your budget. So you got to punch them in the mouth and then take the conversation off of what they thought they were shopping for, which was rate. And they only think that because they don't know any better. So again, a Challenger Sale was great for me. I'm always listening to people because, I'm not that, I don't have that ego. Like I'm always looking to learn, like, okay, what's better? Like I was literally listening to Ryan from Neo Home Loans, who's at Better Mortgage. Literally this morning, it was pretty, I got to learn something because it was literally, it kind of clarified something I was teaching at my sales summit. I just taught a group of loan officers about, you got to deliver wow service and find unique selling propositions. And I literally said, you've got before, you've got during, and you've got after. And he literally was breaking it down, but he was giving his, and I was right. Oh man, that's cool. Okay. I like that. He was giving us before and it's during. And I kind of stopped there. I hadn't finished, but I was like, it fit what I was doing. And I didn't have the ego like, oh, I already know that. I was like, oh, okay. He was explaining it a different way, using some different terms, basically kind of the same concept of deliver wow service before, during, and after. I shown that as you've got to have unique selling propositions because the client's asking the question, whether they're asking it out loud, is why should I pick John or why should I pick Connor as my loan officer? Why should I pick Bob as my real estate agent? So he's essentially got the same philosophy as me, is you've got to answer that before they even ask it.
Right.
And you've got to prove your value up front. So that, so that I'm always looking. So it's kind of like, as a teacher, you always look to grab stuff and steal it and that was the philosophy: steal what every other teacher's doing that's working and add it in and make it your own. So I've been doing that for years, and I'm just really good at taking information, putting it together in a way that you can execute on it and it's learnable. I think the biggest disconnect is people tell you what to do and maybe even why to do it. But what I've noticed is the how is missing. And people are standing there going, I'm doing 2 loans a month. How do I get to 5 or 10 loans a month? You're telling me to call these realtors. You're telling me to do consumer seminars. I have no clue how, John. So then there's still, you know what I mean? So you've got to break. And that's what I think I'm really good at is getting someone, hey, I want to do consumer seminars. All right, I'm telling you, got to do it, but set proper expectations first. You're not getting a deal in 90 to 120 days. You might get one deal if you do it for 3 months consistently, right? But then it starts falling out of the funnel. But you've got to be committed. Just like if you want to mail a farm as a real estate agent, you're supposed to wait 12 months before you expect your first deal. You know how many people are willing to budget and mail for 12 months to get their first deal? They waste the money because they stop at 5 months and they haven't got a deal. Well, you weren't supposed to get a deal in 5 months, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I always tell people, the closer you are to the lead, the more expensive a ticket is. So if you don't want to mail and create your own leads for 12 months, then go pay somebody who's already doing all that. But they're going to charge you a lot of money because they've already spent all this money, all this time to convert them to that point. So the closer you are to a closing, the more expensive it's going to be. The further you are away, yeah, it's cheaper, but now you've got to do all the conversion and create the system. So it just depends on where you want to be in your business. So hopefully that answered your question.
No, that's great. And I appreciate you really diving into that and going into great detail, because I think it's important just to highlight how important it is to treat learning like working. I think in this job where it's prospecting and structuring the loan and doing all, it's easy to just kind of get caught up in the day to day.
But we really never feel like we have enough time in this business. You always feel like your number one commodity is your time, and you're always running out of it. And if you don't schedule time to work on your business, you won't. So I call it, I like color code. Green is money, prospecting. Mm-hmm. Red is admin. And I want it red because when you're doing admin, you are not making any money at all. And then yellow is your family, because you got to schedule family time or you'll get divorced and your kids will hate you and they'll draw pictures of you like this, right? We've all been there. Hopefully we're not still there. And then blue is working on the business, and almost nobody has blue time. So, schedule a blue time to learn something or implement whatever you're supposed to work on in your business plan. So you got a time block for it, right?
Absolutely. So to kind of transition to something, you've helped a lot of people over your career, getting people into homes. Is there one particular borrower story that still resonates with you today and just sort of reminds you of, man, this is why I do it?
Yeah, actually, I just had one. So I tell loaners all the time, if you can be a really good technical loan officer, know your products, know the guidelines, find solutions, you'll get business. So I get a lot of rescue loans, even from realtors I don't work with. So I literally got a call from an agent. She knows me, she's come to my classes. We're not partners, not working together, but she knows that, hey, if anyone can get it done, John can. I got this client, just got turned down for a loan. Now, what I find out is the lender knew 2 or 3 weeks ago they weren't getting a loan done, and they go ghost. I hate that. I call it going ghost. Like, their lender's your best friend, calling you, texting you back when stuff's going good. And as soon as there's a problem they don't know how to solve, they stop answering their text, stop answering their phone. And it's terrible, but it happens, right? For me, I say that's when you earn business. When stuff goes wrong, how you act, then is when you can earn business, because people, when stuff goes too smooth, they don't even recognize what you did, especially if they don't see all the stuff you did to make it go smooth. So you usually win deals when stuff's going wrong, or lose deals or lose relationships by how you act. So obviously, I think loan officer went ghost. Loans supposed to close in a week, call me up. Hey, and the first thing I say is, look, based on what you're telling me, I need to see the file, because I'm not sure, if what the loan officer told you the real problem is the real problem. And maybe if it is the real problem, maybe there's a solution they didn't find. And sometimes, like, if there's an easy solution they're just missing and like they could fix it and close in 3 days, there's no way you can close a brand new Lowe's in 3 days. Someone say, look, just ask them if they can do this. See if their underwriter will let you do this. It should solve the problem. Now, if their underwriter won't go for it, then call me. I know my underwriter will do this. I've done it before. Give me 2 weeks if the appraisal's done and all that, and I can transfer it, right? Because I don't like setting unrealistic expectations. So sends me the borrower, get the file. Borrower gives me some information, not all. Find a solution. We're good. I'd say, hey, I know the listing agent personally. I'll call them, Brent, hey, whatever, this is what's going on. Don't promise. Look, I think I've got a solution. Got to get in front of my underwriter. Okay, I'll give you some days. I just need to know if it's going to close or not. Get it to underwriting, get it approved. Hey, we're approved. And he's like, hey, what's the chance? I just need to get these items. End up getting those items, and now my solution doesn't work because she didn't tell me about a tax lien that came up. Solve that problem, figure out this, that, get it going, right? Okay, now got another solution. Think we're good. Tax transcripts come back. The tax return she gave me is not what was filed. My solution doesn't work. And I call her, I call the agent. This is probably 4 or 5 calls. I say, look, this is not good. I don't have a solution right now. My brain is fried. I'm going to look at this file tomorrow morning, fresh eyes, to see if there's any way possible to get it done. I will call you before noon. Okay, let me know. Call the listing agent, tell them, hey, ran into a challenge. Because I always leave bad news, good news fast, bad news faster. Most people wouldn't. And I'm like, look, and I have that reputation. I will tell you what's going on, good, bad, or ugly, and I'll tell you if I have a solution or not. And one of the things I've learned, because I don't have an ego and think I'm just know everything, is I've shared something with an agent that was a challenge. And I had an agent go, John, I had this before and this lender did this. And I'm like, holy shit, that might work. And if I hadn't told them the problem and I didn't think of that on my own, I might have denied that loan. So I think sometimes by sharing it in the right way, someone else may go, hey, that's the problem. I had that before. This is what this lender did. Like sometimes you think you got to know it all. You don't. Like act like a team. So anyway, look at it with fresh eyes, find a solution, call my underwriter. And like the solution is like, she needs to get her employer to do something. And I'm like, some people are like, oh, there's no way the employer would do that. It's like, here's the thing I've learned. Tell people here's how you solve the problem and let them tell you no. Told her the problem, told her the solution. She said, yeah, I can get my HR to do that. Got the HR to do it. Got the loan, boom, whatever. We're closing. She calls up. We get the clear to close. She literally calls my processor crying, like, because she was homeless. Like, that was the other thing. Like, if I didn't figure this deal out, not that I created the problem, but she's homeless, nowhere to live. Seller's got to put the house back on the market. It was terrible. So got that done, got the clear to close. She's crying, told everyone had a solution and closed the loan. And those are the ones that like that mean something. And, where someone is in a bad position, somebody else could have handled it better. You come in and can solve the problem, even though there keeps being more problems, but you rescue that deal. That to me is like where, so many lessons in there, like, hey, make sure you communicate, over communicate when there's a problem. And like, I literally was calling the listing agent, the buyer, and the buyer's agent every day to tell them where we're at. Here's my solution, what's going on. So that, because again, they've been in a situation where there wasn't communication or didn't, they thought they were good. And then now there's a denial, right? And so you over communicate, you present whatever solution you have. Don't say no to the buyer. Say, if you have any solution at all, even how crazy it sounds, whether it's, hey, you need an extra 20 grand and they don't have it. And they go, oh, I told my dad, he'll give it to me. If you wouldn't have presented that, I always say, let them, whatever the crazy solution is, give it to them and let them say no.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they surprise you, right?
Yeah. And I love that, just the over communication part, because I think what is important to remember is how important that transaction is to everyone else involved also. It's important to you as a loan officer, but for the buyer, I mean, it means
it's an agent's paycheck. Maybe they're paying their mortgage with that check, right?
Yeah, and so you don't want to be the guy that they're going, well, I haven't heard from him, so this is probably going to be a bust. I'm just waiting,
right.
And when they answer the call, that's what they're expecting to hear versus, constant communication, keeping them in the loop. And if it does fall through, They know you did everything possible to try and make it work. And to your point earlier, like that's where you win relationships. That's where you win future business, even in a bad situation. So I think that's a great call out there. Well, as we kind of wrap up and conclude on this, I'm just curious, John. Like, what are you looking at for the next 3 to 5 years as a skill that's going to be essential to loan officers to have, or something that really people should be focused on today to make sure that they're an expert at this in the future?
So, what's funny is I've the class I just taught for prime residential mortgage on the LO Sales Summit. I love the E Myth. It's a great book, and it's like a paradigm shift that you realize. Wait a minute, as a loan officer, I own a job. I mean, most branch managers, you own a job. You're not really running a business. You got to like do things different to run a business, and one of those is you've got to wear different hats. You got the technician hat, which is, are you a good loan officer? Can you structure a loan? Do you know guidelines? Can you, that's how I figured out how to save that deal. Then there's the manager, because the manager just has to make sure the dot the I's, cross the T's, what's supposed to happen happens, so you can have the smooth process. Then you've got the marketer, which is the one that gets the leads so that you can close and make money. Then you got the entrepreneur that creates the vision. And I said, the sad fact is you can be a terrible technician. You can be a terrible manager. You can be a terrible entrepreneur. But if you're a good marketer, you will make a ton of money as a loan officer. And we see it all the time. They run terrible businesses. The clients have a terrible experience. Now, the downside is they got to keep getting new relationships because they burn through them. Not that I recommend doing that, but it tells you what's the most important job for a loan officer is the marketing piece. You got to make it rain. So I think you've got to be even better at marketing and making it rain and providing value. Now, I think that moving forward, AI is probably going to be a big piece. It's a big buzzword, but I do think the companies, there's AI in two parts of your business, in my opinion, is the AI in the upfront and the marketing, which is not going to replace you. It's going to supplement you. Mm-hmm. And then the AI on the contract to close, that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting to allow, like, replace 100 processors with 10, replace 100 underwriters with 10. One loan officer that's really good at marketing now, that may not be the best technical person, can have this AI lifting for them, which is, I think, is going to happen. Is you're going to see the top loan officers do even more business, that buy into these systems, and they're at the right company that buys in. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see the ones that can't market almost get out of the business, because that's the piece, right? So I think that's where it's going. You've got to build really good marketing funnels. You've got to provide a ton of value in that. And you've got to understand, like I was saying in the beginning, there's opportunities to market in before, there's opportunities to market in the during and the after. And like my loan process, contract to close, such wow processes that I get business from my contract to close experience. I literally get business. And then you want to do that on the upfront. Like your client experience on the before process should get you business. Your post-closing should get you repeat business and referrals, but you've got to have experience for that. So I think AI is going to allow you to do more with less time. And I think the ones that jump into that, that's where this business is going to go. That's going to be the separator, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, but I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I see it. So it's a twofold. Like the LO's got to own the marketing piece, that upfront piece, and use AI to help with that. And then your company's got to own that in between contract to close piece, because you really need their buy-in and their resources to get those pieces done. And that's what I see.
Yeah, personally. I think that's a great call out. I mean, there's a lot of talk about AI. Obviously, it's something that, people are really starting to get familiar with, learning how to use, and they're seeing the benefits of it. There's a right way to use it and a wrong way. And I don't even know if we've fully discovered what that is yet, but we're
there's going to be a lot of people going down a road, and that ends up being the wrong road, and you got to pivot, right? Or it could be the right road now, but then it's not the right road later, because I've been investigating this and I've been talking to my company about it, and you got two options. You can build your own tech, or you can license someone else's tech. And there's pros and cons of both. I was originally like, why don't we build our own tech? And then I realized that you could build your own tech and get innovated out of the market because you can't keep up. Whereas these other, like, how would a mortgage company doing their own tech compete against $1 billion AI company that decides to get in the mortgage space. Again, it's a great thing, but I think that you're better off because then you can switch tech that's doing the AI stuff easier. What if you put all this money and resources? It's kind of like when you buy a stock and you watch it go down and you don't want to sell it because you think it's going to come back up. If you put all this money and resources into your own AI tech stack and then you realize third parties are just out inventing you and out pacing you, are you going to go too long because you can't sell the stock, right? You can't walk away from the loss, but the money's already spent, right? So I was at first like, why aren't we getting our own tech? These companies are doing it. And then it's kind of like some of them have like already gone wrong road, you know? So I think there's going to be a lot of that. Nobody knows. And I'm just looking at, can you piggyback off some other tech that are, you can license, kind of like, you don't, a lot of companies don't have their own LOS. They don't want to invest the resources and they license it. And, same thing with a pricing model. I'll license the pricing model. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm looking like, I think the AI is going to keep going so fast that if you do your own tech, man, you got to really invest to keep up with the other companies that are only AI, right? That's just my thought, if you're asking me.
Yeah, no, and I've always thought, to look at technology as it is a journey and not a destination. It is always evolving. You never reach a finish line with it. It's something because just in our world, it's evolving. No one's ever going to just stop and go, okay, we've done the best we can with technology.
Right.
Hit the limit. It's over. Thank you.
And sometimes you gotta just say, hey, look, this worked great for 10 years, but it's done. Like I got to dump it and move. And that's hard. Dump something you've been using for 10 years and move is not easy. But sometimes you got to make that call. Like I can't, it's done. I've got it band-aided and scotch taped and duct taped together. Right. And it's the foundation of the technology just doesn't work. And you got to just cut and run. So I think that's hard too for companies to cut and run from tech they've had. So we'll see. I mean, again, we'll see how it plays out, but
yeah, well, John,
it's going to be fast and furious, I think, for the next 2 years.
Great having you on. I really appreciate the conversation, and best of luck to you in the future. And I'll keep an eye on it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man. Have an awesome day.